Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I am so excited for our guest this morning. She and I were just doing some talking before we came live, and there's just so many questions I have for her. And I think she and her family have such a unique story. Oh my gosh, when I found out that she was going to come on, I was just so excited, and I was doing my research, and I'm like, man, what a cool couple. What an amazing family. And I think what's just such a breath of fresh air is that we have these cool, fantastic, unique, attractive, out there couple that has such amazing hearts, and they're such servants. And so they're just fantastic people. And so I am so excited this morning. We have Francie Frane with us. Francie, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here.
Yes, and she is coming to us from Colorado, and everybody knows I'm from down south in North Carolina. So we were talking a little bit about that, and she was, because I'm a big baby when it comes to the cold, and so when I think of Colorado, I think of like snow and skiing and big jackets. And in the South here, when it hits like the 60s, we're all like, oh my God. But Francie was saying, they were just in Tennessee, and she's like, it's cold and rainy, and there was an ice storm, and she hasn't had good experiences with the South.
And it's such a different weather here because it's so dry that even when it's 40, we're wearing t-shirts. The sun's always out here. It's rare that the sun isn't out. And so when it's 40 there, I think because of the humidity, it makes such a difference in how cold it is. But it was raining and wet and freezing. So I wanted to come back home.
Right. You were ready to get back.
Yes.
Well, for those who aren't quite sure about our guest, Francie is the wife to Duane "Dog" Chapman, and they together have a beautiful ministry. And Francie, it is called Light in the Darkness Ministries, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And this is ministered to the brokenhearted, the abused, particularly victims of abuse and trafficking. And I'll tell you what, Francie, a couple months ago, I had Tim Ballard on here, who is the founder of Operation Underground.
Yes.
OUR, and it was so enlightening. It was enlightening and alarming to learn what's happening around the world with human trafficking. And so many people, it's uncomfortable to talk about and think about, and we just put blinders on, and it's not happening around me. That's what people want to think. And so when I know that there's advocates like you and your husband trying to dig in the trenches to help, we just need more of this. So tell me, how did this start?
Well, it was such a God thing, because I have had a heart for women who have been abused, and that is all across the board. I've come out of an abusive marriage in the past, and so I know what it's like to feel like you can't get out and that there's not a lot of help. And so I've had a heart for that already. And we got connected through a friend of mine. I was going to do a podcast with her, and she started talking to me about this ministry in Tennessee called Rest Stop. And I hung up the phone, and then I called her back and I said to her, this is just resonating in my spirit so strongly. I need to know more about Rest Stop. And so she explained to me what they were doing, and they are rescuing women and young ladies out of sex trafficking, which really wasn't in my wheelhouse of either at the time of knowing about. And I think for me, when I thought of sex trafficking, thinking of things, overseas and not necessarily here as prevalent as it is. And so I
Right.
started learning about the ministry and going there. And um, since we visited there, I have been mentoring the girls and um, walking alongside them as they're getting healing and getting their lives back. And it's just been incredible. And the stories are, they're horrific, but our God is the God of restoration. And so to watch these girls' lives getting redeemed and restored, and that's part of what I speak into them. God doesn't waste one thing. Not one thing that we go through in our lives does he waste. And so everything that they're learning and everything that they're doing to gain back their identity, they're going to be able to help other girls and other women coming out of the same abuse. And
Yes.
so that's how we got involved, and it just God just started opening these doors from there. And it just so happens that I am going to be marrying Dog the Bounty Hunter. So the fact that he can come alongside and catch these guys um, is just phenomenal. And so we're really excited about doing that. And we both lost, we both walked our spouses home from cancer. And so we're just both in a place of, we know with all our hearts that God brought us together very powerfully. I didn't know who he was. And that we want to, the rest of the time that we have here together, that we want to not just sex trafficking, it's just women in general that are being abused. We want to give back, and we want to be able to make a difference after all the pain and um, what we watched in losing Bob and Beth and walking them home. We want to be able to give back, and we want to be able to make a difference with the time that we have left here.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And it's so true. God doesn't waste any situation
That's right.
or any type of pain, or even any type of sin for that matter. He can take something that was meant for harm and literally take it like a curveball and bring something, a blessing out of it, right?
That's right. Yes.
And and so if you wouldn't mind going into a little bit more detail, how did you and Dog, how did you connect? Because I know you said you really didn't know who he was. What was the story of you two meeting?
So I was grieving in a terrible, terrible way and having a really difficult time. And I have a friend that has a ministry out of Arizona. Her name is Katie Sousa. And we had gone there to spend some time with her and her team. And she had been walking alongside me as well. And we were staying in a hotel, and my really dear close friend, Paige, she had come with me, and she had been following Dog and Beth's story. Beth had throat cancer, and Paige had been following what they were going through. And she was looking for some worship on YouTube, and it's a bunch of articles started popping up on there that Chapman had passed away. And so she just said, "Oh my gosh, Beth Chapman passed away 2 days ago from throat cancer." And I immediately started crying, and just because I was still in such a place of grieving.
Sure.
So I started saying, we started talking about that. I really believe cancer is from the pit of hell. And it's just a terrible thing for any family or couple to have to go through. And we had that conversation. And then I said to her, "Who's Beth Chapman?" And she goes, "What?" She said, "That's Dog the Bounty Hunter's wife." And I was like, "Who's that?" And
Yeah.
she's like, "Have you been living under a rock?
Right.
Because everyone knows who that is." I didn't. And so she showed me a picture of Dog and Beth, and I was like, "Yeah, I have no idea who that is. I've never seen him before." And so that whole rest of that week, she kept saying, I I really think that you're supposed to meet him. Um, I just keep getting these visions of you meeting him and you guys just changing lives together. And I just kept telling her, "Are you nuts? Like, that's ridiculous, Paige. I tell you all the time how much you hear from God. And I think your God antennas are twisted up
Right.
because that's crazy. Just
Yeah.
listen to what you're saying. In the natural, that's crazy. In God's world, no." But so we come home and we don't talk about it again. And several months later, my grandson spends a lot of weekends with me, and he had confiscated his papa's phone and had all of. I just wasn't ready to shut Bob's phone off yet, and I also wasn't calling anybody back anymore because we had an excavating company together. And the people that were calling by this time, 7 months in, didn't know that he had gone home. And I'd have to end up consoling them because they're shocked when I call them back and tell them. And then I get off the phone and I'm just a wreck for the rest of the day. So I just wasn't calling people back anymore. There was my grandson's name is Anthony, and the phone was on the couch, and there was 3 messages on there, and I erased the first two, and then the third ones, and I don't listen to them.
Mhm.
And then the third one starts playing out loud on the speaker, and I'm like half listening to the message, half wondering how it's playing out loud. And I hear the guy say, "This is Doug Chapman, and I'm looking for Bob. And my next door neighbor, my really good friend, is Carlos." And I thought, "Oh, Carlos, Carlos didn't know that Bob passed away. I should probably call this guy back." So I call and ask for Doug, and he says, "Who's this?" And so I go through this whole, "This is Francie. You left a message for my husband, Bob. I'm really sorry. Bob passed away a few months ago." And he just starts bawling. And I'm thinking, who is Doug? And why is he crying over Bob like this? And so I finally hear the guy take a deep breath and he says, "My name's not Doug, it's Dog the Bounty Hunter." And everything that Paige said to me while we were in Arizona is playing in my mind like a movie. And I'm
Yes.
going, "What is happening right now, God?" And I'm so freaked out. And so we end up having this 2 hour amazing conversation just about what we both had just walked through, what we were going through. I was speaking into him about not giving up. And I don't believe in God's kingdom that we walk through these things and he doesn't have a plan for us after when we get through them. And so he asked where I went to church, and lived, and I live in a small town in Elizabeth, but went to church in the same town that he lives in. And so we talked about that a little bit, and he asked if, at some time could I come to church with you, and I said sure. And so I hang up, and my first phone call, of course, is to Paige, and she's screaming, "I told you, I told you." And so then I don't hear from him after that, and I'm still am going through the grieving process, and um, I don't reach out to him either. And it was 6 or 7 months later, my girlfriend, who also lost her husband to cancer, and I was walking alongside her, she called me one morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, which was not out of the ordinary. And because she was early on in her grieving process, and she's hysterical on the phone, and I'm totally asleep trying to instantly go to this place of, do you want me to come pick you up? And she said, no, this is not about me. And so she tells me that she was watching Bethel Music at 2 o'clock in the morning, and a Dog the Bounty Hunter interview pops down on the feed. And she thought that was so strange because she was watching Bethel. And I had only told 4 people that I talked to him, and she was one of them. So she watches the interview. He's in California on Fox News, and she says, I'm sending you the video. Go to 4 minutes and something seconds. And so I go there and I start watching, and the newscaster asked him that he was about 7 months in now to his grieving process. And did he think that what he's gone through would be a part of how he also helps people? And so he says, it's so funny that you say that, because I called this dirt guy Bob, and his wife Francie calls me back, and we had this amazing conversation about what we had been through. And I really think that we are going to help each other, and I think God's going to use us together somehow. So I just start laughing and crying at the same time. I'm not even sure why, but so then of course I call Paige back, and she's like, you have to reach out to him now. So I finally did reach out to him, and we started building this really amazing friendship. And I feel like God really, yes, we came together in our grief, but we have a lot of things in common. And we built this really strong friendship over the phone for about a month and a half. And we spent I don't know, there were nights that we stayed on the phone from 8 o'clock at night until 6 o'clock in the morning, just having these amazing conversations. And I just feel like God really brought us together in this very strong way in this friendship. And then both of us never felt like we would, and we both spoke it out loud, that we would never give our hearts to anybody again. Not like that.
Right.
I had amazing marriage to Bob. I adored him. And I spoke that out loud to my friends and to everyone. I'm never doing this again. I'm never giving my heart to anybody. But what I want to encourage people really, truly is that if you say yes to God, and you truly give him your life and your heart, don't put limits on what God can do in your life, because he opened both of our hearts up in a way that we didn't dream possible. And that's also a part of why we're so passionate about helping other people, because we were broken and in the worst place that we ever imagined that we could be in our life. And what we thought was the end actually ended up being just the beginning for us. And so now that's why we want to help change lives and help people, because of what we went through. And only because we said yes to God. We had nothing left. And we said, yes, I give you everything because I have nothing left. And when we're willing to do that, it's amazing what that's all God needs is our yes. And what he does from there is incredible.
It's a complete surrendering.
Exactly.
And that's not just a one-time thing. That's like a daily thing.
Yes.
Sometimes, or most of the time, like 15 to 20 times a day, giving it back.
Sometimes, yes.
Yes.
And when I was grieving, we live in the country, and so I would be on the riding mower with my worship music playing in my ears, and I literally would be out there for hours, even when I was done mowing and I didn't have the mower on anymore, and I just was riding back and forth on the riding mower, saying over and over and over again, God, no matter how bad this hurts, I I'm going to follow you. No matter how bad this feels, I'm not going to stop chasing you. I'm not going to stop saying yes to you. I give you my yes, because I knew that that's what I had to do to get out of where I was. And so I would just say it over and over and over again. I say yes, no matter how bad this hurts. I give my life to you. And sometimes it was 300 times a day, in the worst part of my grieving.
And
So it's
that's
true.
what I love. Oh my gosh. And your story is so beautiful and you share it so eloquently. And I think so many people who are hurting today and struggling, we all have this thing called free will, right? And as
Yes.
humans, we're selfish and we think we know exactly what's best for us and we know the perfect timing. And I even know how selfish I've been, like, God, you need to make this happen and it needs to happen now and it needs to be my way because I know and I know and I know. And no, I mean, God is so great. He knows what's a mile down the road. And
Exactly.
and and so I got to this point in my life where my daily prayer is, strip anything and everything from me, Lord, that would ever permit me from spending eternity with him, and to
That's me
abundantly
too.
bless anything that will give him glory.
That's
Because I'm
right.
one of those people that anything good in my life, literally, I give all glory to God because it's him and it's been his hand over and over again in my life. And so it is, we almost, so many of us, foolishly and selfishly, we have to kind of get broken down to surrender, right? And
Yes.
that fatherly love, God doesn't like to see us suffer, but sometimes until we hit that wall or till we're on our knees, in some type of pain, we don't surrender. We don't
It's
get,
true.
you know?
Yeah.
And so, oh my gosh, what a beautiful story. And so now, as you are combining your families, I love this because I have 5 children, and I think most of the time I'm like me and my 19 kids. I have 5 children, but together you have this big, beautiful family you're combining. So 14 adult children and 16 grandchildren together.
Yes. So I have two sons and one grandson, and the
Okay.
rest are Chapmans. So it's a lot, a
Yes.
lot.
Yes.
So, and because of what's going on in the world right now and COVID and all the restrictions, I haven't met everyone.
Right.
Plus, everyone's scattered all over. So I haven't met everyone. And the kids that are in Hawaii, Lisa did come here and spent 2 weeks with us with her youngest daughter, Maddie, who both of them are fabulous. I love them so much. So I got to have that time, but some of the other kids and grandkids that are in Hawaii, because their restrictions have been so stringent, I haven't met them. We've done lots of phone calls, but not in person yet. So now that things are starting, life is starting to open up, which we're so grateful for. That's going to start happening. So, and
Wow.
there are kids here in Colorado, but the rest are scattered all over the country. And so it's going to be a minute before we can make all that happen.
Right. Now, and so you have 2 sons,
Yes, both
you
here
said,
in Colorado.
both here. And so what do they think? Because I'm sure, your grown boys, they have a protective nature over mommy, right? Like
Yes,
they're always going to
yes.
be mommy no matter how old they are. So what do they think of?
So at my oldest son, so then I found out after that. So I didn't tell them at first because I really okay, in our human minds, right? When we're trying to tell God what he should be doing and how we see it playing out, I really thought that God was using me to help him stand back up in the midst of his grief so he could get back to his career. Like, that's really what I thought God was using me for. I in a million years, I didn't imagine that it was for this, for us to end up falling in love and being in this place. I wouldn't allow myself to go there actually at first,
Yeah.
because I felt like it was such a betrayal um, to Bob, and because my heart was so broken and I loved Bob so much. So not until, okay, so that's a whole nother thing. But so I didn't tell them for months that I was talking to him on the phone. And for the first months, that's all we were doing, was having these amazing hours after hours phone conversations. So when I called my daughter-in-law and I said, okay, I have to tell you something. And I'm calling you first because it's easier to tell you than it is to tell Greg. So I want you guys to meet somebody. And she goes, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So she's panicking at first. And I said, no, it's a good thing. It's somebody that I've become really good friends with, but I really want you guys to meet him. And so then when I said to her, it's Dog the Bounty Hunter, she started laughing. And so she didn't believe me. So I sent her a picture of us that we had taken when we went for coffee the first day. And so I sent it to her and she was flipping. So she said, okay, I'm going to call you back. So she tells Greg that mom wants us to come over for dinner and she wants us to meet a friend of hers. And she shows him the picture and he starts laughing and thinks that we photoshopped it and that it was a joke.
Oh
He
my
thought it
gosh.
was a joke until he actually got to the house and he came in and Dog was there. And then he just started like holding the side of his head and he was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this is happening right now. Because what I didn't realize is that the boys, the boys were watching his show, and I didn't even realize that because I had never seen it, and I and
Right.
I didn't know that they were watching him, and so um, it was a little strange for him at first, and he is very protective over me after watching me um, take care of Bob for 4 years with cancer and watching me walk Bob home and what I went through after. So he was very protective over me. But Dog and Greg have the most amazing relationship now. They just love him. And my grandson calls him Grandpa Dog, and he spends a lot of weekends with us, and so he is just nuts over him.
That's amazing. Oh my
So
gosh, I
my
love
yes, my younger son hasn't spent that time. He travels a lot, and he works for a company who sells hunting gear, and they video hunts all over the place, and so he's gone a lot, so he hasn't had as much um, time with them, but of course
right.
loves him.
So now, so when, as we're trying to prepare and keep claiming of things returning to normal, when do you guys have a wedding date set?
So we do, but we're not sharing it yet. So
Oh, nice.
it is going to be this summer. Um, and but I'm not putting we're not putting the date out
Right.
there yet until we have things more finalized. But we're really excited. And um, while he would love this massive wedding, I'm a country girl. And I just want something small and intimate with our kids and our friends that have walked alongside us through all of this unbelievable miracle that God has done to bring us together. And so we're really excited about it.
Oh my gosh. What a beautiful story. And now, so it, people are going to be really intrigued. I think your love story and how you've come together through pain is going to pull people in even more. To how can people get involved? How can they help? How can they learn more about your ministry?
So we are working right now on getting a website together,
Mm-hmm.
and people can reach out to us on our Instagram pages. We both have them, and we're going to be posting on those pages as soon as we get the website finished. We're still at the beginning stages.
Mm-hmm.
So, as soon as we start getting things together and getting the website up and how people can start getting involved and helping, we will have all of that information on both of our Instagram and Facebook pages. So we're in the middle of we're close to having all of that done, and our heart is to start bringing people together, and so we really want to start doing that here in Colorado, and so people can get ready and get excited because we want to start this summer doing some outdoor worship nights and just start bringing people together and worshiping the Lord together and ministering to people that are hurting. This shutdown and life and all the things that have been happening have been really hard on people and on families. And I think that people want to know that God's still out there and that He's going to show up. And so this summer, we really want to spend time with people and showing them that God still moves and God is the God of miracles and He wants to move in our lives. So that's our heart for this summer, is to be in Colorado and start doing some things outside so people can get excited about that. We have some amazing worship teams that want to come together and help us, and some amazing speakers that want to come and come alongside us and just speak into people's lives.
Wow. I love the heartbeat of your mission. And um, I think especially in these crazy times we're living in, people need it now more than ever.
Yes.
Um, and so, yeah, so for many reasons, to see what's coming up with you guys, follow you guys, Dog on Facebook. Both of you have Instagrams. Find you
Yes.
there, find him there, to see, when everything's going to come together with your ministry. And then also, be on the lookout for the summer for wedding details.
Yes.
So that is so
They'll be
exciting.
coming soon.
Yes. Wonderful. Well, and, I would love to, I'd love to, maybe after the wedding, I'd love to have both you and Dog come on here, and you can update us where you're at in the ministry, and maybe talk about your wedding story. I just think you guys, you have such um, you have such a beautiful story that God used pain for such a bigger purpose. And
Yes, He did.
everybody is feeling some sort of pain or frustration right now. And I can't thank you enough for being here. This was
Thank you
this was
so much. Thank you for having me. And we would love to come back and share our wedding story with you. And thank you so much.
awesome.
It was
All right,
nice
guys.
meeting you.
Yes, it was so nice meeting you. I got the chills several times during your story. So yeah, so everybody make sure you check out Francie on Instagram. You can also find Dog on there, and we will be following along on your journey. So
Thank
congratulations,
you.
and we'll be sure to follow up with you guys.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Please do.
Francie. All
Have a
right, bye bye.
blessed day. Thank
Thank
you.
you too.